Here's Herbert in the playoffs, Danny, your guy. He had that game against the Jags where Trevor spotted him 4 interceptions. He ended up losing. And then in Houston, he's like, okay, the way to win the game is at 4 interceptions. No.
It's a bold strategy, Kyle. We'll see if it works out for him.
Nope, he tried it.
What the heck?
Yeah. What would a win mean more for Herbert or Drake Maye here?
Herbert. Herbert, obviously. It would mean more for me. He's in year 6. Drake Maye's in year 2. Herbert's on his 3rd coach. Maye's on his 2nd. Herbert's 27. Maye's 23. If Drake Maye doesn't win a playoff game in year 2, okay. He wins MVP or is second for MVP, had this breakout year. We all think he's arrived as a potential top 5 perennial quarterback, and he's going to be hanging out and have a shot for the next decade to do it. Herbert still has a long runway ahead of him. I obviously think that. But the longer you go into a career without a playoff win, the tougher it is. So I do think it would mean more for Herbert. Having said that, I just want to also try to be fair, not just because I'm a fan of his, but just to be fair. We shouldn't set up a world where the underdog on the road with the worst team, if he loses, he's a choke artist, right?
Here we go. Well,
he's not supposed to win. He's not supposed to win this game, right?
No, but he better ball. Okay. He better not go out there and throw 3 interceptions.
I agree completely, but he's not supposed to win.
But so this is, hold on, because I have a different answer than you, but to answer that, I don't love the setup of this team is the 7. They are in this game as the 7 seed, as if Herbert was out all year and got dropped in on the 7 seed. Now we're asking him to win it. Part of the reason the Patriots are the higher seed is because of how great Drake Maye was. Part of the reason the Chargers are where they are is because the offense. I don't think most of this is on Herbert, by the way. In fact, we know I think Herbert's been very good, but they earned their way to this playoff matchup.
Absolutely.
And it was a team that I understand they lost arguably the most valuable player in the history of pro football, Joe Alt. The guy is valuable enough to make a Pro Bowl after 6 games. I'm being serious. He's super valuable.
He is valuable.
But a team that going into the year, I think most people thought, well, they're better than the Patriots. But the Patriots had the better season. But we don't. I don't look at the Chargers as huge dogs. I look at this
3.5-point dogs.
No, well, yeah, I understand that they are 3.5-point dogs, but I think talent-wise, Chargers, Patriots, pretty damn fair fight. And that I think both coaches, I look at similar caliber. I think Drake Maye is better than Justin Herbert, but I understand some folks that feel like Justin Herbert and Drake Maye are very similar, and Herbert's the more seasoned quarterback, even though Maye's had the better year. So I look at this as a very even matchup that it to me wouldn't take heroics for Herbert to win it. And so I am rejecting your initial setup of that a win and it's unbelievable what Justin Herbert's done, and a loss, what do you want from him? I got to see how the game plays out in that regard.
I think that's fair. I would just say the fatal flaw of the Chargers this year is Slater and Alt and then a bunch of other injuries on their offensive line, and Justin Herbert has been pressured and hit at a historic rate, right? Normally, and we just did the last 20 years, quarterbacks don't win playoff games in that scenario. And we just show, in terms of most hits taken, but you still make the playoffs, there aren't that many occurrences of guys getting hit this often and even making the playoffs, but the ones who do immediately lose in their first playoff
But you think
game.
Herbert's better than all those guys? Better than old Russell Wilson?
Yeah, which is
that
why
was a good Deshaun Watson. Right? I mean, that's when he was really good.
And a very good Andrew Luck. I mean, listen, it's yes, and that's why, not heroic, but I am picking the Chargers to win the game, and I do think it will mean a lot for how we talk about Justin Herbert, because a quarterback who gets hit at the rate that he does with those offensive line injuries normally doesn't win in the playoffs, and it would take a Superman-type effort from Herbert in order to do it.
No, look, I agree that if Herbert loses but plays well, you can't kill him to me. Because I think if they were healthy on their offensive line, I mean, Slater's a whole nother issue, but just Alt, and I might think the Chargers should win this game. I think that's been their downfall this year, the injuries. But if he doesn't play well, then I think that's a problem. And he's going to really be known as a guy that melts in the playoffs, which is surprising because he had shown, as we talked about earlier, like I was at your house, his first start against the Chiefs, and he was great. He got thrown in there, and he was great. So I expect him to play well. I'm surprised, though, Nick, because I agree with you fully that Herbert has more to win. Like, if he wins this game, it means more for Herbert than for Maye. You disagree with that?
I think that we have been living in a world where Drake Maye is going to win league MVP. The Patriots are, in some quarters, believed to be the most complete team on their side of the bracket. They're the 2 seed, and I think that everyone at this table trusts them more than they trust the 1 seed. Believes in the Patriots' chances of making the Super Bowl more than we believe in Denver's chances of making the Super Bowl. We are simultaneously living in that world, while the reality might be in 5 days, Drake Maye has not won the MVP and they lost the playoff game. And next year they go from the easiest schedule in the NFL to a far more difficult one, and all the questions of, man, here was Jaden Daniels in year 1 and year 2. Here was CJ in year 1 and year 2. Those things start to pop up fast. I also think that the Patriots do have a legitimate chance of making the Super Bowl, and I don't think the Chargers do. So I think that just advancing, there is more championship equity, if you will, in the Patriots advancing than the Chargers advancing. I understand that getting the first playoff, a loss in a weird way, like a loss is more damaging for Herbert than it is for Maye.
Yes.
But that's slightly, to me, KW, I don't know if you understand, maybe I'm parsing too much, different question than who does a win mean more for. A win for Drake Maye this year stamps this season.
Just 1 win, you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think you win a playoff game against what we all think is, a legitimate team with a legitimate quarterback and a legitimate coach. Then you, to me, enter the house money phase. It's like, oh, okay, wow. Now we're playing for to get to the conference championship game.
Yeah.
If you lose in round 2, you deal with it. If they lose this game, it's going to be a lot of, man, I told you guys. Who they beat? They beat Buffalo once this year.
There would be a lot of that.
And I'm also baking in, I don't think whoever should win MVP, I think Stafford's going to win MVP. And then it's like, so what was this season? You wanted a division championship. And like, that's for a team that has real Super Bowl aspirations, it feels different.
I'll give you a path. This is, and I'll try to give you some nuance. The strength of schedule stuff, I think, starts to anger Patriots Nation, because it takes everything that Drake did and just puts an asterisk on the whole season. And it's just kind of a blanket, you played a bunch of cupcakes, you had the 3rd best offense, 29 points, but he didn't really do much. So I think people push back against that a lot, because when you watch Drake, it's like, you know what? Drake would have carved up most of these. Yeah, take it on. This reminds me early Mike Tyson. There were some tomato cans, but we want to move up the ranks. We think we can win it. The defense, on the other hand, no one talks about hey, your defense is the 4th best in the league. I think that's where the strength of schedule comes in. We haven't played a bunch of great quarterbacks. We have played a lot of guys that were riding the bench for the year, or just rookies, or just not good quarterbacks. So are we really the 4th best defense? On paper, yes. I'm not.
So you're
sure
worried
we
about
actually
Herbert having success against you?
Yeah, I don't think we're actually the 4th best defense. I oddly do think we're the 3rd best offense.
Well, and I think it's a huge piece of why the Chargers, in addition to keeping Herbert healthy in Week 18 against the Broncos, they're like, we like our matchup with the Patriots. We don't want the pass rush.
Breaking news.
Wow.
Harbaugh gone from Baltimore. Danny, I hate to say it, we're going to discuss this and push top 10 Tuesdays. People are like, oh my goodness. All right, Nick, you were on this for months. Well, your immediate reaction to this news breaking?
I would like to congratulate the Baltimore Ravens in making it so much easier to keep Lamar Jackson. I am trying to do this as professionally and without making myself the subject of this week's sports media ombudsman, where I eviscerate myself. I have tried all year long to point to publicly available things to demonstrate what I knew was a real rift between Lamar and Jon Harbaugh. And so I pointed to the fact that Lamar, the head coach and the quarterback don't communicate about injuries, clearly. And the fact that, and I thought that article was pretty clearly, to mix metaphors, a Hail Mary, I felt, by Jon Harbaugh to signal to the organization, guys, I know you think if it's one or the other, you got to go with the star quarterback. But
wow,
that was my I don't
right.
know. That's my read. That is
the only way to read that story was that it came from the Ravens and Harbaugh.
Well, it definitely came from the Ravens,
right?
Somebody
And
in the organization.
And so this is a very, very risky maneuver. I don't know, again, who the best available head coach is, because I don't even know who the best available D coordinator for the Cowboys is. And I don't know for the Ravens their appetite of, with 2 years left on his deal, giving Lamar a fully guaranteed top of the market deal, which is the only thing he'd want. Like he would be justified in asking for that. The market's moved 20% since he signed his deal. He wanted a fully guaranteed deal before he won a cup or an MVP and 2 first-team All-Pros. But this was coming. And even if they won this weekend, barring this team making the Super Bowl, I believe this was coming. And I thought it was the biggest story in the NFL the last 3 weeks, and now it's here.
Look, you may be right about Lamar and Harbaugh. Obviously, Lamar didn't give him, forget ringing endorsement, an endorsement at all when he was asked about this the other day. But regardless of that, unless Lamar Jackson was like adamant, Jon Harbaugh's my coach. He has helped me become what I've become. He must be here. Yeah. Barring that, it was time. I don't care if Lamar liked him but was like, hey, whatever, we got to win. It was time. We saw year after, and again, Harbaugh will be just like Stefanski, although he's obviously done more than Stefanski. Harbaugh may get another job. He'll certainly get interviews with some of these teams that are looking for head coaches. So he's a good coach. But 18 years, after they won that Super Bowl, he missed the playoffs 4 out of the next 5 years. And then Lamar popped because they wasn't going well Lamar's rookie year, and then he put him in for Flacco, and the rest is history. They became a contender. But we saw so many times where things I look at as coaching. I thought they were an undisciplined team with a lot of the penalties in critical situations, taunting, unsportsmanlike fouls, just the not being able to get a full complementary game together. I look at a lot of that as coaching. And so I thought it was time, whether him and Lamar got along or not. And so it is risky in that you had a good coach. Now you got to get a good coach, but you still have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and some other good players. So I think they'll be fine, and this was the right move.
And I think it's actually less risky, just to build off that for a second. This is immediately the best job opening by far in the NFL, and it is not close.
Right. You get the second best job's the Giants.
Right.
Well,
you're going to get your pick, and you might even be able to entice people that otherwise were not terribly interested in entering this job market to be like, oh wait, I can go work for one of the 5 most stable organizations.
So, what is it? Were you alluding to somebody?
No, I don't know. Is Marcus Freeman definitely staying at Notre Dame?
That's his
Curt Cignetti definitely staying at Indiana.
Right. I just think people that otherwise would be like, the Giants, the Cardinals.
That's interesting.
Oh, wait, I can coach Lamar Jackson at 29 years old and work for one of the best organizations. To me, the coaching market changes immediately with this news, and we should just think bigger on it. But also, sometimes it's just time.
Yes.
I obviously used to work in Chicago, would cover the Cubs very closely. Theo Epstein used to talk about this all the time. He said he got it from Bill Walsh, 10 years. And then it's about time for leadership to change, both for the leader and for the team. because the leader needs a new challenge, and the people receiving the message from the leader, it can just grow stale, and so it's best for both parties to.
That's why I had to give the show over to Wild.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. 10 years from now, who knows where I'll be.
And Brew mentioned this because I've been sounding the alarms of like one of the longest. I don't know who's longer tenured, him or Tomlin.
I think Tomlin's the only one.
Tomlin's one. He was 2, so he spent there I think 18 of the 30 years. And we were just talking. Coach will be on after the break on how deep your roots are within the organization.
Oh, it's massive.
What I would be worried about is Belichick, and I know their system is different, Belichick in New England. I don't know if you want to be the guy after the guy. We've seen a lot of quick turnarounds, but like there's a lot of untangling that you need to do. But like Mike Vrabel, for example, in New England, he has a clean slate. Gerard Mayo was dealing with like signage in the building and like really trying to untangle Belichick. I wonder if you're doing that with Harbaugh, and like, are we going to see someone come in immediately like Ben Johnson and turn it all around, or do you spend a lot of time trying to un-Harbaugh the whole franchise?
I think that makes sense, and that's a good point. However, most of those times you don't go in there where you got a 2-time MVP in his prime at quarterback, not to mention one of the best running backs in the league. That's the difference. Like Mayo, even though he had May, it was a rookie year. It was a whole clean slate. So, yeah.
I have one thing that won't happen, but Wilds you'll love, because I mentioned Curt Cignetti. I think that the Lamar contract stuff is going to be troublesome no matter what. I'm really interested in what the phone call is like. It's like, hey, Las Vegas Raiders, who have never gotten the quarterback right, you have the number 1 pick and you have an unhappy Max Crosby, and we're thinking about hiring Curt Cignetti. Would you give us the number 1 pick where we can draft Fernando Mendoza and Max Crosby for Lamar Jackson? Just think about it. You get your quarterback, we start fresh, we add Max Crosby. That's certainly a trade that is, it's fun for shows like this.
It's fun for shows like this.
I think it'd be nuts.
It would reset everything, but
if you're resetting,
it would be a resetting.
But you don't know if Mendoza's going to be good.
No, you don't know any, but it would be resetting. I think Lamar's going to stay. Can I say something about the Ravens the last decade in defense of this move? That I think because there have been so many franchises that have just been bad, and I think it has been underrated how tragic the ends of these seasons have been for Baltimore. And this predates Lamar. So this is, and it's not even Harbaugh's fault. It just means maybe everybody needs a fresh start. 2016, the second to last game of the year, they are playing the Steelers for the division title on Sunday Night Football. There's 10 seconds left. They have a lead. Antonio Brown is at the 1-yard line and extends over the goal line to win the division. The Ravens missed the playoffs. 2017, final game of the year, win and you're into the playoffs. They have Andy Dalton in a 4th and 12, 60 yards from the end zone. He converts it. They're out of the playoffs. 2018 had the bad playoff game of Lamar's rookie year. Who cares? 2019, you're the number 1 seed, unanimous MVP. You play the worst playoff game as a team to the Titans and Derrick Henry, and you lose. 2020, you have a 99-yard pick 6 to lose to Josh Allen in a 10-3 game at the 1-yard line. 2021, you miss the playoffs when you're 8-3 because Lamar gets hurt. 2022, you miss the playoff. Looks like you're going to miss the playoffs. You make it with Huntley. You have a 99-yard fumble 6 to lose that game. 2023, Zay Flowers extends. 2024, Mark Andrews drops the ball. 2025, Tyler Loop. That's 8 of 9 years your season came down to a moment and you lost 8 different ways.
You're just trying to torture Brew right now?
No, I'm saying.
That was probably Harbaugh's argument. Like, look at this guy.
Guy makes a kid.
Right, but I'm saying, like, I just think there's too much scar tissue. Yeah. Like they have to find a way to start fresh.
A new culture.
And now you have to start a contract negotiation with Lamar.
Jon Harbaugh out after 18 years in Baltimore.
An undeniably successful 18-year tenure, the second longest head coach in terms of one team, one organization in the NFL. Just him and Mike Tomlin at the top of that list. Only 3 losing seasons, won that Super Bowl back in 2012. Coach, your reaction to an undeniably successful coach and a very successful tenure coming to an end after that heartbreaking loss to Willie Steelers.
Yeah, it seems like it's reactionary, but maybe this has been a long time coming in terms of them thinking that they need a fresh start. From his perspective, if you do kick the field goal, it's a 40-yard field goal. We're not having this conversation, and maybe they would have gone to the playoffs, and after a playoff loss, we'd be having this conversation. I don't know, but I think it looks dramatically different. So that feels a bit reactionary. With the amount of smoke in terms of the Lamar Jackson article, and it seems that there's some underlying conflict there. I guess Mr. Broussard felt like it was time for something to change. But from his perspective, he's got 3 years left on his deal. He could easily sit out 1 year, 2 years, and he's going to be the most sought-after coach next year if he decides to do that. All these openings, I'm sure they'll want to talk to him. But, in the interim, he should go hang out with his brother and help him coach in the playoffs if he wants to do that, and maybe add some insight that helps the Chargers win.
Yeah, this is tough because I didn't think he deserved to be fired, honestly. I thought he was a mainstay. I thought this season, we talked about the Baltimore Ravens being a contender, not a team that was in trouble in any facet. They never took into account Derrick Henry's ball control issues, Lamar being hurt, the defense playing not up to par. But then we saw them being one game away from being in the playoffs, and I thought Coach Harbaugh did a good job for the most part of taking all the arrows, right? Because there was a lot of criticism going his way. Nevertheless, everything they need to do in the offseason is more of a facelift. It's not a crisis in identity. So I didn't think the firing was warranted. Nevertheless, man, I think right now, what's the next step? I think the next step is, where does this organization go? If you want your defense to be the spearhead of your team, you got to go get a defensive-minded head coach. Go get Brian Flores. If you want an offensive-minded head coach, you go get Mike McCarthy, because you know what he can do, especially when he gets the best out of quarterback. You see what he did down in Dak. He has a winning record, and he's ran an operation before. So I think it's about the next move being the best move. And if you do pay Lamar Jackson that season, you can't be back. You can't be in this situation next year questioning his worth and what he can do, right? He has to erase all the deficiencies for the Baltimore Ravens.
And what people don't realize is when you fire a head coach, there's so much transition that takes place in the organization. It's not just the coaching staff. The scouting staff has to get used to you. The group that does free agency, they have to understand what the new coach wants. So there's a whole personnel perspective. A lot of the roster gets turned over. You may change your medical department, your PR department. There's layers to this, and then everybody's got to get used to the new person. So teams that have continuity also have efficiency and take advantage of teams that are constantly churning over guys. Now, the one thing that the Ravens did with Jon that was very different is he was one of the only special teams coaches to ever become a head coach. So I could see their head coaching search being a little bit different than maybe the traditional head coaching searches, where they could look in that realm for another guy.
Listen, I think that they're going to have their pick. It's the most attractive job on the market. That's the part about what's next, right? You get to go work for an organization. They've only had 3 head coaches in the history of the Baltimore Ravens, right? It was Ted Marchibroda, Brian Billick, and now Jon Harbaugh. So
I was there with Ted Marchibroda.
Were you? I believe it.
Really?
So like you
First
get
ever
to
Ravens team, yep.
really.
Wow.
So a bit organizational stability, and you get a 2-time MVP who will be 29 years old for next season.
Right.
So like the Ravens are not going to have a hard time finding a coach. And I know you're not going to come out and like support coaches getting fired, and you said that he didn't deserve it. I would just say that
not to cut you off, and I apologize.
No, you're good.
And I think it goes back to your point. We're watching other teams look for their head coach, like the Giants and other teams like that, who are blue bloods. And not to say the Ravens are, but what coach is saying, when you get a new coach, it's not just about it's the philosophy change. That changes the makeup and creed of the building. That takes years. You know what I mean? That's not like a 1-year fix type situation.
I mean, listen, I understand that Jon Harbaugh was very entrenched, and so undoing that or changing some of that will take years. Ben Johnson seemed to do it in 1 year. Mike Vrabel seemed to do it in 1 year. Liam Cohen seemed to do it in 1 year. Like it can happen, especially with the things that I think Baltimore has going for it. But more than that, just about whether he deserved it or not. Him and Lamar Jackson were not on the same page.
I don't know about that, DP. I don't know if that's overblown.
Well, this just happened. He didn't give him a vote of confidence at the end of the year. If Lamar Jackson wanted him back, I got to imagine he would be back. Sometimes it is in everyone's best interest for there to be a change. Andy Reid in Philadelphia, it happened. Like it's just time for people to part ways and go. And hey, all the best. Thank you. Best of luck to you as well.
And look, Philadelphia made the decision. That's a really, really good organization. They were able to win 2 Super Bowls without Andy. But imagine if Andy had stayed and they'd gotten Patrick Mahomes, what that could have been. And we look at the New England situation, that's so unique because Mike Vrabel was a part of that organization and the start of the dynasty, and then you bring in Josh McDaniels. So that's a different package. And we see coaches all the time come in and win one year. It's whether you can win over time, and that's what Jon has proven. He can win over time, and we can disregard that.
Sure.
But that's a unique talent.
I thought one of the things that came out in the piece we read, the big article that came out
in the Baltimore Sun,
right, was that Eric DeCosta didn't talk to Jon Harbaugh. That Jon Harbaugh only talked to Steve Bisciotti. And it felt like that was a disconnect because usually the head coach, GM, owner, that's one triangle that has to be the core and foundation of your team as far as communication. So maybe that was a tell that there was something coming down the line. But nevertheless, I think Jon Harbaugh is a hell of a coach, man. I just felt like it was premature. Sorry, Coach.
No. I was there when we hired Eric DeCosta too, when he was a real young guy, and I know him personally, and he's a good guy, and Jon's a good guy. I think when they say he didn't talk to him, he didn't have to answer to him. So when he took over for Ozzie, the reporting structure was head coach to owner, GM to owners. That's the ultimate way. So I don't think it's about them not getting along as much as just the way the power structure is.
Do you think that Jon Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson were aligned?
I think that a lot of people didn't want Lamar Jackson, and Jon Harbaugh said, "Yeah, I want him." And then he brought in a system with Greg Roman that really lent itself to help Lamar grow and blossom.
No, I think no question it worked in the past. I'm saying this year.
Well, things do change. Like any relationship, a marriage or any long-term relationship, things can change over time. It doesn't mean that they can't work together. Right. They just may have some differences that they have to work out.
What does an alignment look like to you? This is a question.
I think that
because I watched Harbaugh in his presser come out and say, hey, man, me and Lamar's fine. Like, I don't know what all this is coming from. And maybe it could be smoke. I give you that. But I think actions over words. Like, the actions is that they parted ways with their coach. And if they thought it was just bad luck with injuries and a missed 44-yard field goal, they wouldn't be doing this. Like, Lamar Jackson and Jon Harbaugh, yeah, maybe grew apart. But again, I referenced it with the other guys. It's just something that I've always thought was really insightful. Theo Epstein said that he learned it from Bill Walsh. He wrote about it. Sometimes it's just time. They call it 10 years of leadership. Like, it's in the best interest of Jon Harbaugh to get a new challenge, and it's in the best interest of the Ravens to hear a fresh voice. No football team in the league has more losses than the Ravens do of 5 points or less. I showed you guys the number yesterday. In the last 18 years, since Harbaugh has been there. They've lost close games. They've lost double-digit leads. They have had heartbreaking losses at the end of seasons. It might just be time for a change.
But when you're there for 18 years, you're going to have heartbreak losses. You're going to have wins.
But I'm saying more than the Browns or the Jets or the Bears over the last 18 years. Not just one coach. Any organization in football, they've got the most close losses. It's just, it might have just been time. It's not that Jon Harbaugh's a bad coach. He obviously isn't.
Well, you don't get fired
coach.
If you're a good coach.
I'm saying it just might. He might not be a good coach for the Ravens anymore. Like that's that's a reasonable thing. Sometimes people get divorced and then they both end up happier.
How are all those new voices for the Giants working since they got rid of Tom Coughlin? Those
How about
fresh
for the
voices
Jets every year?
Yeah, those fresh voices helping out.
To be very clear, you also could do way worse than Jon Harbaugh. Like it is a risk.
Yeah, he's going to have his pick of if he sits out a year. Next year, every single job. I wonder if Jon Harbaugh will take it.
We also, to your point, you brought it up a little while ago. Like Harbaugh vouched for Lamar. There was a trust there. There was a relationship there. There's that clip that they keep showing. Like it was like a 4th and 1, and Harbaugh walks into the field. Lamar, should we go for it? He's like, hell yeah. Jon Harbaugh doesn't even blink. We're going for it. They get the first down. That's called chemistry. That's called a rapport that you just don't. That doesn't happen just on the football field. Those are private conversations. That's two people learning about each other and believing in each other, and that's broken now. So now you're putting all this faith in LeBron to be the difference, and a head coach has to have the same belief that Harbaugh has in him, and that takes time.